Welcome to Season 4 of the Bird Joy Podcast. Your hosts, Dexter Patterson and Jason Hall, are back with more birds, more bird joy, and plenty of laughs along the way. Each episode brings new stories, fun conversations, and a whole flock of good vibes. We're happy you're here. We really miss the homies, and we hope you enjoy this season. You ready? Let's go.
Welcome back to the Bird Joy Podcast, homie. I'm Jason Hall. I'm here with my incredible co-host, Dexter Patterson. And today we are excited to bring somebody on this podcast that I've been waiting to talk to for a long time. We are excited to welcome our homie, Rosemary Mosco, science writer, naturalist, illustrator, and creator of the beloved comic Bird and Moon. Rosemary has a unique gift for mixing art and science in ways that make ecology feel accessible, joyful, and hilarious. She's the author of The Birding Dictionary, named one of American Birding Association's best books of the year, a clever pocket-sized guide celebrating birding language through clever definitions and illustrations. She's written acclaimed science books for kids and adults on the solar system, butterflies, backyard nature, and more. Her work has appeared in Audubon, the New York Times, and other national exhibits. Today, we'll talk about birding culture, comics as science communication, and how humor and curiosity help people see the world differently. Rosemary, welcome to the Bird Joy Podcast.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. You two are heroes of mine, so I'm super honored.
See, man, here we go again. You're making us blush. Like, you gotta stop doing this.
Yeah, I keep going. We could turn this around. Just do that.
This is fantastic.
Great to have you here.
I love this so much. And you know, I teach science communication, so your work often comes up in the classroom and in the circles with my colleagues. People are always talking about, this person gets it. And I'm like, she sure does, doesn't she? She really does. Let's talk about this intersection of nature and art. And you've talked about how your early science education didn't really feel inspiring until you started drawing what you were curious about. And we talked to our artist friend about this too. So I'm curious, what was that moment like? How did art become your gateway into nature and science?
Man, yeah. So it's hard to say because I feel like I've been doodling since I was really little, but a lot of kids just kind of stop and I didn't. But I think really for me, it wasn't about drawing so much as it was about cartoons, like really specifically. So I grew up in the 80s and early 90s when newspaper cartoons were the thing, right? Like you would, like on Sunday, you would grab the newspaper and like, and catch up, and it was incredible. And all we had were like these pulpy, Calvin and Hobbes collections, like millions of them. And so I thought, like, this is how to communicate with people in ways that they'll find fun. And then I realized that if I started including some of the science I was reading about, that made it sort of weird and different and interesting. I think the moment that it really clicked for me, though, was I was at a summer camp and they had this guy come from the museum, this guy, Michael Levier, came from the local museum. And, they'd have workshops. Someone would give us like a boring lecture or whatever. But this guy he had no slides. He had nothing. He just slapped this huge sketch pad on the ground and pulled out these giant markers. And he went, okay, let's go through the history of life. And he just started drawing like trilobites and doing little voices like, oh no, don't eat me, kind of thing. And I was, as a kid, I was like, wait, science is great. And it was incredible. It was so effective. And that's all I want to do. And I actually recently ran into him again. And I was like giving him a big hug. Like, you were the guy. Like, you made me realize I could do this. So yeah, it was really cartoons that did it for me.
We had the best cartoons too in the 80s and the 90s.
Know, man. Like pages and pages, my pop would put away whatever, he'd be reading the serious stuff and I could get some Calvin and Hobbes in, right? I could get some other stuff in, some Peanuts maybe.
Yeah, and I'd read Doonesbury, pretend I knew what it was talking about.
Right? And what was the other one? What was the homie that was eating the burgers? Archie? Is it Archie?
Oh my God.
He was always eating burgers. So
that's and there was like no plot, and I read so many.
None whatsoever. Homies just eating burgers all the time. It makes me laugh because like that's the feeling that your comics give me now, right? It's like I gotta say this. The latest comic about how to get into the nature, where the person finishes it with being engulfed by moss. That had me crying because it made I was like, this is so good. Because this is what I think a lot of us feel is like, we just want to be in a quiet forest, getting engulfed by moss and letting ourselves go back to nature. Like it was so good. And it made me laugh. Yeah, it just made me laugh so hard. Because the best part about some of your comics too is like, you're swiping across, especially on like Instagram. They're jokes, but because of the swipe, they're like perfectly timed. So you swipe to that last one and boom, it just gets you and you're just on the floor crying, laughing. Like, so it's so good. So when you started making comics for birders and for scientists, like, did you set out to teach first? Did you set out to make people lay on the floor laughing first? Like, how did those goals kind of interact for you when you were coming through this process?
I think I wanted to do both. You know, maybe you were kids like this, but I was one of those kids like I dread, like thinking about it. I just feel so bad for the people around me who had to deal with this kid. So I would just go up to an adult who I didn't know and I'd be like, do you want to know all the animals that live in the Amazon rainforest? And I just start like telling them like, no, like, hi, I'm Rosemary. Like, just like, I need to tell you all these facts. And then I realized that people would be more likely to enjoy them if there was a joke there. Like I simultaneously wanted approval and wanted people to just absorb all of these facts. So science communication was a good way to do it if you do it effectively. Although I have since learned that you do have to listen to and respect your audience, which was a key piece that I did not possess as a child.
Why did I just envision the little homie from Jerry Maguire? Did you know the human head is 8 pounds?
When Jurassic Park came out, it was such a big deal. Like, I don't know if it was a big deal for all nature kids. Like, was it a big deal for you too? Because it was
That's why I became a scientist, that movie. Period.
Okay. So I went to see it with some like nerd friends and we spent the whole time just being like, well, that's not accurate. Well, that's not accurate. And then afterwards we were like, that is the greatest movie we've ever seen in our life. So incredible. It was just, it was just like a love letter to science. And the scientists were the really cool ones. I mean, there was like a paleobotanist, like it was amazing. So but yeah, 100% that nerdy kid. I was like, my parents are going to tell me I'm that nerdy kid.
That's incredible.
They were not wrong. Yeah. So that movie made you become a scientist.
Yeah. My mom was my first, I think it was rated R back then or something. I was it like 91 or 93. It was like the first big boy movie I could go see. And my mom knew I loved science and dinosaurs and all that stuff. So we rolled to the theater down in downtown Pasadena, California. And once I saw them scientists plug that frog DNA to that Brontosaurus, I was like, yo, listen.
Wait, you were like, I'm going to do that.
That is it. That is it. You know, I actually got all the way to college. I was a genetics major until I realized, I don't want to do that. That is a little bit less interesting than I thought it was. So, but yeah, I wonder, like, for me, that was my influences, like how I got started as a scientist. Like, what were some of your early art influences, though? Like, we talked about the comics on Sunday. Like, did you have a particular artist that you really loved to follow?
So we talked about dinosaurs. This guy named Stout, who like, I think he was a cartoonist for Spawn comics or something, but he came out with this book about dinosaurs that was called, I think it was just called The Dinosaurs or The New Dinosaurs or something like that. But it was like in the style of, there was an Art Nouveau page and there were all these like, you know, different kind of like, some were realistic and some were really gonzo cartoony. And that really influenced me. William Stout. My biggest influence for sure, besides bird guides, have you read Little Known and Seldom Seen Birds of North America? Do you know this book? Or these books?
I've never seen that.
Okay, so there's 2 books in this series, and then they also came out with a humorous birdwatching dictionary, or humorous birdwatching magazine called Beyond Birdwatching. So it was these 3 people, Ben, Catherine, and John Sill, and they made these bird guides that had fake birds, but they were like exquisitely watercolor illustrated, as good as a field guide. And the birds were like, there was just like a vulture, but it had like spectacular blonde hair, or there was like a duck that had like a target on its tummy, or like it was all like very dry. And I didn't get it at first because I read it when I was young enough that I was like, oh, field guides are serious. This is just a whole series of birds that I didn't realize, weren't real. And then it took me ages to get the joke. There was one page where they had like greater and lesser yellow legs. I mean, these jokes were so cheesy. This is like where I get it. And they were postulating other hypothetical yellow legs, like middle yellow legs and like greatest yellow legs and like all this stuff. And they had a whole chart. But it was so
Medium.
Yeah, it was so incredible. It's so dry, so like unexpected. And that was kind of a mind-blowing moment to me, that you can do this, you can be this dry, but you're actually being funny. And the art was incredible too. So that helped. Yeah.
I love that. I had taken a screenshot the other day. I was looking at my birding life list, and there was egrets, and it had like great egret, medium egret, and little egret. And I just like took a screenshot, and I was like, we need seasoning on our bird names. Like what? Like we couldn't do anything better than that. Like 0 solid field marks.
It's so unhelpful too, because it's like you see the medium
ridiculous.
one and you're like, compared to what?
I know.
What am I supposed to do with this?
It's just stupid. Like it makes me laugh too about your comic where you're going through that kind of juxtaposition, and you have instead of least bittern, you have the most bittern, and he's like stomping on a city. Oh, that makes me cry. That one makes me cry. That's another one where I swiped and then I just fell out. So folks need to go check it out.
Oh, that makes me happy.
You use comics as this gateway to curiosity and joy. And your comic, specifically Bird and Moon, has become a space where scientific concepts meet that humor. Why do you think that combination works so well and invites people into some deeper learning?
I think it's because there's something sticky about adding humor to science. It just makes you remember it better. So, or just any kind of like interest. So I remember taking this art history class in college, and the teacher, it was an architecture class, and the teacher had us just straight up memorize something like 300 buildings. And we were all so bored. And then one of the buildings, she told us the story that it was like this guy had made it for his mistress, and it was really ostentatious, and like everybody could see that he loved his mistress more, and this whole seedy story. And we all remembered it. And she made some joke about, oh, well, you all on the test, you all got that one right. And it was because she had made it interesting. So like adding a story or adding, some humor to something can spread it to places you wouldn't expect. So last Valentine's Day, I made a comic, and with all my comics, I make them and I think no one's going to find this funny. What's wrong with me? And then 80% of the time they do. But I made this comic that ended with a joke about the phosphorus cycle, which I struggled to learn in grad school. Like I just could not. There's so many of these cycles, and this one for some reason was just not sticking with me. So I made a joke about it, and all these people were talking about the phosphorus cycle. And it's incredible how if you just put a little joke, you can get the driest stuff. No offense to anyone who loves the phosphorus cycle. I heard a scientist who said, I studied the phosphorus cycle.
I don't know if those people are in our demographic.
The phosphorus cycle demographic. That's a different podcast. That's the phosphorus joy. Yeah. So it really shows how helpful it is for education to add a little bit of that stuff.
I love that. And it really does make it stick. Even like I know when we do bird walks and stuff, I think sometimes when we make jokes about different kinds of birds and stuff, it makes people laugh, and then they remember, like they remember why that bird is different. And this part is really interesting. Is in the Audubon piece, you mentioned that some of the comics let people sit with some ambiguity, especially around the science. Can you talk more about that? Like, is there kind of an example of that in your work that folks can kind of see how that plays itself out?
So I'm trying to think which one specifically I was talking about. So there's a lot of stuff that remains to be discovered about a lot of the creatures that we're learning about. And so I often like to emphasize that there's room for, especially when I'm writing picture books or cartoons for younger kids, that there's room for exploration. I feel like that wasn't emphasized to me when I was a kid with all the books I read. They all sort of implied that what we knew was what we knew. It was all perfect and science was done and complete. And then I remember reading this one book about whales by this guy, Mark Carwardine. I'm not sure how you say it. He was one of the guys from Last Chance to See, that book in the show. And he included in his book all these whales that we didn't know anything about. There are a bunch of whales that are rare and live way out in the ocean. And so he filled his book with question marks, like there'd be, location and there'd be question marks, or diet and question marks. And that was the first book like that where I realized there was space for someone like me find out things and add. So that feels important, and it doesn't feel like doing a disservice to the science to say, okay, here's what we know. Now come help us fill in the parts that we don't know. So I try to be really careful about the stuff the facts that we're aware of and the facts that we aren't. And nobody notices or cares. It's so funny. I made this comic about like bird abilities that I wished that I could have. And one of them was eating pink food to become pink, or like taking the pink from food and becoming pink. And I wrote that. And then I realized, wait, are the animals they're eating actually pink? Are they taking the pink substances, or are they making pink out? Like I went down this very boring rabbit hole. And I eventually in the end changed it to something like eating food to become pink or something like that. And like really narrowed it down to make sure that it was accurate. In a way that no one will care about or notice, but it's all really important to me. There's like 100 papers behind every cartoon.
No, but there's some young kids out there that you're their Jurassic Park moment, and they're looking at your comics and being like, that is not accurate. But then they're like, this is the greatest comic I've ever seen in my life. But I love that you take the time to stress that and try to get it right. And where you can't, that ambiguity almost feels like you leave it as an invitation. Hey, we don't know, but come on in here and let's not take ourselves too seriously and let's figure it out. I love that. I love that a lot.
That's so important for science communication. It's probably the thing that I most got out of I did a graduate degree that had a science communication component. And one of the hardest habits to break was every time I'd write an assignment, I'd want to start it with, you probably don't know that. Or like, most people are unaware of that. Or like, like coming from a place of like, I know a thing you don't. Ha ha ha. And you see it all the time, right?
All the time.
And you can't, and we all do it all the time. And so I had to break myself out of that mold of like, I know something you don't know. You clearly don't know it. Because some people do. They know things. And you have to meet them halfway.
Meet your audience where they are. That is a great science communication tactic. Is there a favorite comic of yours that changed somebody's perspective that kind of stuck with you?
Oh, that's a really good question. I had, so years ago, and it's no longer online anywhere, but I did an urban nature cartoon when I was living in Toronto, Canada. I don't know why I specified that, but some people don't know where it is. So I had this urban nature strip in this local blog, and I did a comic about pigeons, which has now become a huge part of my world, is talking about how great pigeons are. But this was long before that. And someone emailed me and said, thank you for your comic. I will no longer kick the pigeons.
Jesus.
And one, I'm assuming he wasn't successful. He was just kind of flailing at pigeons. But two, the fact that I was able to turn someone from like an evil act to appreciation.
Evil pigeon kicker.
Yeah, with like
the
a
Grinch's
little
heart
tiny
grow
thing.
3 sizes.
Exactly.
I'm feeling.
That's great.
Yeah, I know. Suddenly he looks at the pigeon and suddenly that single tear is falling.
I know.
Oh.
See, you're out here changing the world. Have you had any like audience reactions that like you didn't think it was going to hit like that, but it just surprised you how well it landed?
Yeah, the one that really stands out for me is, so I did this comic about cardinals molting.
It's one of the best ones. It's one of the best ones. We all know.
This was one of those ones where I was like, no one's going to find this funny. Like, this is just me, and that's okay. But it was about how cardinals will sometimes undergo what's called a catastrophic molt. So they'll lose all the feathers on their head all at once. It's totally safe. It's fine. They seem to do it after the breeding season is over and they no longer have to look good. So they'll just drop everything. And they have this kind of like purpley pink flesh underneath. It's all wrinkly. Like it looks like the Skeksis from Dark Crystal. Like they're really freaky looking. And then they grow back. So I did this comic where I show the types of northern cardinals, and I have like a juvenile and an adult. And then I have this bald one, and I named it Blood Cheap, the molt demon from the Cursed Abyss. And I put like gratuitous umlauts in Blood Cheap because I'm like a big metal fan. So I put like some totally pointless umlauts. And I thought, okay, no one's going to find this funny. Put it on the internet. Some people, kind of like, seem to enjoy it. And then I moved on. And this was a few years ago. And then last summer, a friend of mine reached out and said, did you know that there's a subreddit? So the website Reddit has these little forums called subreddits, and there's one called Blood Sheep, and it's this community built around bald-headed birds, and they just post, and they have created this universe. So like there's blue jays, they're called blue cheeps. There's like grackle cheeps. There's like brown cheeps. Those are brown thrashers. And they just post all these bald things, and they make like art, and there's like thousands of people in this like
God. My heart
world. And it was incredible. It was like you don't know what's going to happen when you put something on the internet for good or for evil, you know.
True.
That was really touching and amazing.
Oh, I just pulled up the website. Okay, we're gonna have to link this one in the show notes.
I posted. I got sent to that. I posted a picture of a blue jay that was molting, and I said, "Don't worry, little homie, your glow up is coming soon." And I posted the bald blue jay, and so many people were like, "Do you know about this Reddit?" And like they just like,
oh my god,
it was insane. But I got there, and I have tears in my eyes right now because it is so funny.
Yeah,
it's so funny.
We've never linked a Reddit sub thread in.
No, and nobody like. I didn't know this was real. Like they credited me. Like they credited my comic. It was like super super sweet. I mean, I wouldn't have cared if they hadn't. Like it's just cool when something you make something and it has weird ripples. But I actually went and posted on there. I was like, hey, this like made my day. Like I was like crying when I found out about it, and they all replied with a visit from the Queen Chief, and they put like the umlauts, and they all called me Queen Chief, and they were all just like, this is the greatest day of my life.
Oh, I can't take it. Oh God, we're gonna have to edit out all this laughing because I'm fighting for my life.
So good. This is so good. Bald-headed birds. All right, I'm trying to move on, folks. I'm trying to move on from the bald-headed homies.
Did your blue jay get better? Like, did you see it? I guess oh no, I shouldn't do that.
I'm gonna have to share the picture. It is absolutely hilarious. So maybe we can throw that on, Jason, in one of our little promo videos that we put together. All right, let's shift a little bit to this book, your new book, The Birding Dictionary. How did that idea start? Did it come from a single moment of like hearing a birding term that made you laugh, or was it kind of more gradual and you're like, I got something here?
It happened really in a way more boring way than that. So I have this publisher, Workman, who I've done a couple books with, and they did my pigeon book, and I co-wrote a book for Atlas Obscura with them. They've been really great. And they reached out and they said, we're restarting a series of humorous hobby dictionaries. So they had these dictionaries, I guess in like the 70s and 80s or something. There was like a golfing one. There were all these like hobby specific dictionaries. And they said, we want to start with birding. Do you want to do a humorous birding dictionary? And my agent kind of sent it to me and he's like, oh, I don't know if you want to do this like little project. It's going to be a little thing. And I was like, I could do that in my sleep. That sounds incredible. Yeah, 1,000 times. That's all I want to do. I just want to do that one. And he was like, really? And I was like, that's the one. I was so happy. But then I had this moment of, oh no, what if I don't know enough birding terms? So I sat down. I mean, I'm curious, you two would have like thousands in like 5 seconds. I just started writing them down and I was like, wait, there are so many. Like our hobby is just full of language that's weird and just funny. And so, yeah. And then I started writing this dictionary, and it was an interesting experience because I've never written something that's pure comedy before. There are facts in it, but it's much more comedy centric. So I don't know how comedians do it, because by the end of it, I was like, I am the least funny person in the world. Like, you write a joke and then you edit it for 5 months.
Yeah.
And you're just tweaking it and tweaking it. And you're like, I'm the world's most boring person. But yeah, it was a blast. It was really fun. And it's been nice going around and talking about a book that is funny. I wasn't expecting things to be so difficult in the world. And so people have been appreciating, having a moment of being silly.
I think about your book every time I pitch.
It was on time, for sure. It was on time.
Yeah. The definition of pish, where like one of two things is going to happen. Either a flock of birds is going to come out, or you're going to find yourself standing there in silent humiliation. I think of that every time I pitch for a bird. Like, come on, guys.
That too? Like, it's
like, guys, don't humiliate me.
Because if you're with people you don't know and you're like, I'm going to do this really cool thing, and you start making this weird noise and nothing happens, and your friends are like,
everybody at the bird walk is looking at you.
Can we move on?
Every like beginner birder is like, did he just have an episode? Is he okay? Like, but the book celebrates inside jokes, celebrates birding knowledge jokes. It's good for a beginner as well, because in each kind of frame of a definition, you give the actual definition, but then you embellish into these more funny or comical types of things. What was your process for deciding how literal or playful to be with that? Like, did you find yourself just sitting there laughing as you wrote these? Like, were you just stone-faced serious the whole time?
Yeah, so some of them are not factual at all. So I think at one point I defined an egg as a type of rock that often has a small bird in it.
You have to edit out the laughing for me and Dexter.
I don't know. But then there were other ones. I kind of tried to balance it. So it was important to me to have definitions that anyone could enjoy, and then to have some more specific ones. So one thing that I've always, and I think you two as well, have always kind of like had as a soapbox is anyone can enjoy this stuff and you don't need to know this terminology. So I remember going to a science communication conference and someone said, remember, we tend to underestimate people's intelligence and overestimate their vocabulary. So we assume people, just know all these weird words like jizz and twitch and whatever. And then we're like, oh, you're not smart enough, but they just haven't been exposed. So I tried to include some really hyper-specific ones and then some general ones. And I always tried to explain what it was, unless it was something like egg. But yeah, and then some of them honestly were just, I wanted to share a fact and almost no one knows. Like there's a bird called the oleaginous hemispingus, which is a real type bird.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And I just included it because I think it's incredible that there's a bird called oleaginous hemispingus.
I mean, am I looking it up right now I am.
It's a boring bird. Like, it's not an exciting looking bird.
A dull olive yellow bird of the family Theropidae. Lives in the mountains of Northeast South America. Judging from its name, it is presumably quite oily and has only half a spingus. Poor thing.
Yep. Yeah.
That's incredible.
I guess it's better than middle egret, but not that much better.
Yeah, it's got a little bit more seasoning to its name for sure. For sure.
Yeah. I can't even pronounce that. Rosemary, the book actually was named one of the best books of the year by the American Birding Association. What does that recognition mean to you? Especially for a book that it's part dictionary and part I'm just having some fun here and really just kind of celebrating a culture. What does that mean to you?
I mean, so much. I love the ABA. They've been really nice to me. Yeah, I don't know. It's I don't make the kind of stuff that is ever going to be, a giant worldwide hit. I'm fine with that. Having my peers say, "Hey, this made me have a good day," just is all that I care about. So yeah, that meant a lot to me.
Oh, that's incredible. It's kind of the same thing we get when we bird with one another and we put somebody on a new bird, right? You watch that smile start to streak across their face, right? I think the same thing happens with your book and with the comics as well. And it's something people don't talk about often, like how the joy and the obsession of birding can kind of come together in these ways that express itself comedically. What do you think this approach to birding teaches us about paying attention, and do you think any of that is reflected in the dictionary itself?
Yeah, I feel like I've said, like one really nice thing is that you can share facts with people in a way that will, stick with them and crack them up if you add a little bit of humor, you add a little bit of interest to it. So that's been kind of a nice thing. So like when you're out birding with people and you're talking with them, there are ways to make them feel like they're having a good time and like they're welcomed versus ways to sort of, say, oh, you don't know what so-and-so means or whatever. But I feel like anything we can do to help people look at birds in every possible way helps. So I know that, there's been a lot of controversy, for example, about comics and graphic novels and whether it's real reading for kids. And what, the scientists I know have found is that you can reach different audiences if you reach people in different ways. Same with your videos or with podcasts or all that stuff, you're reaching different audiences. So I think it feels good to be approaching birding in another way. I've also done a lot of workshops where I have people, go outside and take 5 minutes and just try to observe something funny in the world around them and think about something that would make a good comic. And they all come back laughing. And so it's a different way to look at the world too, is sort of like what's a way that you can look at it that is less serious. Birding can be so serious, which is fine, but it's also funny and it's good for the soul to realize when it is when you can inject some levity into it.
It's about the joy, right? Yeah. There's so much joy there. There's so much fun. It could be funny. It can be weird. It could be all of those things. That's what I love about it. That's how you reach people. I always like when I create a video or even in my book, I wanted to include these fun facts about birds, because what I found is like the fun fact or a joke or those that's what people remember. And now they're also learning, and then maybe they're being more curious. And when I think about kids specifically, we've talked about this. They're so curious. So graphic novels and all of these different things really kind of taps into that playful curiosity and can really get a kid to pay attention or to say, hey, this is for me. Like, I'm into this. I'm really into this. And maybe then they go for more serious stuff, but they're doing it because it sparks something unique, like something real inside of them based off of something funny or different.
Yeah, and you're making them care about it. I mean, you're giving them a reason to care about it. Like, this makes me feel good. This makes me have a good time. This is really neat. I want to learn more. Like, that's so important. You can't expect people to just blanket care about nature because it exists. Like, you have to give them a good reason, I think. So yeah, 100%. Everything you just said. But blow it up, put it on a big poster.
I love that. Yeah. My son is obsessed with northern cardinals. So anytime we see him in the backyard, which has been a lot recently because everything's covered by snow, and I've been spending a good portion of my paycheck on birdseed. But I can't wait to show him blood sheet in August. Like, it's like, because like you were talking about how like you find a way to connect with folks and like he's there. And I'm like, you both were at the biggest week in American birding where I talked about getting him on that saw white owl for the tattoo contest. And like, I want to keep it going. And like the blood sheet part, it's just a different character in his mind. And speaking of comics, like he does not want to read anything other than his Sonic the Hedgehog comics. Aww. And they have challenging words in there, right?
Yeah.
And they're like size 8 font, so I got to put my old man glasses on. But like people are not understanding that like that can be such an incredible pathway for some kid that just doesn't want to read Harry Potter, so to speak. I really love that you put it in that frame, is that it's kind of good for all ages too.
Yeah, I was considered a slow reader, which is so ironic now because I write books, some for kids, and I read and write all the time.
Whoever called you a slow reader, did you send them a couple signed copies? Like, did you? I mean, because I would be petty. I would be so petty right now.
They're long gone. It was because the books they were trying to get us to read. They weren't my kinds of books. They were other kids' kinds of books for sure. But I was like reading, I wasn't into them. I wasn't reading them very fast. And then my teacher was like, wait, what if we have her read like science books, like nonfiction books? And I read the heck out of them. Like I just needed to read books about things I was interested in. Like that's so important.
It's so important. So important. I think more people should, it's not about the reading. It's about the topic. You got to find the right topic.
Yeah.
One day my son will bring home a book from the library about birds, and then I'll know.
Well,
Rosemary,
I feel like with Sonic, there's like, it's a mammal, right? There's like
it's a hedgehog
component. Sorry, Dexter.
No. I was just curious, when the book came out and you started seeing how people reacted to it, were there moments where birders were reaching out about their own language and like giving you more like things that you like, oh, that should have been in the book? Or, like, I'm just curious, were there any of those moments where you're like, I wish I thought about that one?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Yes. I mean, I'm a one person operation. So there were a couple where I realized, shoot, I should have included them. So one of them was One Day Wonder, which is when a bird shows up and it's there for one day and then it's gone, a rare bird. And I just completely forgot about One Day Wonder. There were a few that made me wish there could be like an international version. So there was one person who reached out, and I don't know I can't remember what exactly the words were, and I wouldn't know how to say them anyway because it was German. But our term LBJ, which is like a little brown job, like a little sparrow or whatever, that a wren, and they're really hard to ID. They're like a huge challenge and they're fast. There's a German term apparently that has a different acronym, and it means like small, fast, gone or something like that, which I thought was like incredible. Was that this entirely separate cultural term popped up. There was another person who reached out and said that pigeon keepers, and this might have been Dutch or something, but they're called like dove milkers or something. Like, that's amazing. So there are international terms that I'm not aware of that I think would have been so much fun. But there's always just more, and there's so many intergenerational differences too. I mean, one of the funniest was I grew up with everybody using jizz which the kids are not.
No. Not at all.
They're not, which is good. I think it's good. They're saying like vibes, like that has like,
I was going to say, we tried to switch that to vibes a few years ago because we had a couple say boomers in our local bird chat. They kept saying it and we were like, listen, y'all, we gotta be better. It's like the 2020s now. We gotta be better. All right.
Yeah, we can change. Yeah, like we don't have to keep all of these things.
That's great.
For sure. Yeah.
I wonder too, because we talked a lot about birds here, but you've written books on butterflies, solar systems. Like they're not necessarily the same topics, but like what stays constant in your approach? Is it always the same level of comedy? Is it more about the art sometimes, depending on the age? Like how do you kind of approach those things?
Well, it pretty much always has poop jokes.
Of course.
All my editors.
Of course.
I actually I can't talk about it, but I pitched like the most poop related thing. Like I'm like hitting like peak poop. There's poop and there's butts. I don't think that was what you were looking for. But no, it's really, a lot of it is just like mixing humor that, is just can be silly and gross with enthusiasm. Like I try not to be mean. There are a couple times when I get on soapboxes. So in the dictionary, I have a definition of birding. And I basically say that if you're the kind of person who says to someone they're not a real birder, then
it's not the book for you, homie. Put it down.
Yeah. I like sneak in some soapbox stuff.
Good.
But mostly it's just like, don't be a jerk and be excited about the world. And then I throw in a butt to make that less serious.
I love it.
How do I want to phrase this? Have you learned from your readers, both young and old, about how they engage with science books versus your comics? Like, have you seen a difference between the two, between the science books that you put out and your comics? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that has really surprised me is that younger folks, when they find a book that they like, it becomes their whole deal. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
So, and I remember this as a kid. It makes me feel so happy. There were some books where my whole identity was this book, like this book is me. And I carried it, I would carry it in my bag everywhere. So I was at an event, and this has happened a few times, kind of similar things, but this was the most intense example I can think of. I was at an event, and at the end, I gave a talk. I think it might have had a pigeon component in it, but this kid puts up their hand and they said, I love your book. I carry it with me everywhere. I'm always like using it to correct my teachers with, which I thought was really funny. This is my pigeon book. And they said, and I have a list of questions, and it's like, I have like 15 questions or something. And they started asking them. And I said, okay. And I answered a couple. And then other people had their hands up, and I said, come meet me after we're done, and I'll go through your questions. And so they came up afterwards and started asking their questions, and they were just like, it was their whole thing. And it was so powerful, because I feel like that doesn't happen online as much. It's like, if I would encourage anyone who has a chance to write a book, your book might not, like I said, like be a giant bestseller, but there will be like a handful of kids that you specifically connect with. And you can think of books like that when you were younger that were life-saving books for you. You're that book, that is what you've created for someone else. And that is the coolest feeling. I mean, it's too bad that it involves a lot of time and a lot of printing and all this work.
For sure.
But that felt incredible. Like that was just, this kid who reminded me so much of me, this like really science-oriented kid was just like, this is me. And I was like, yes.
And of course that kid had 15 questions. You were asking 20.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it.
That's great. And for folks to know, the book is called A Pocket Guide to Pigeon Watching, Getting to Know the World's Most Misunderstood Bird. So homie was rolling around. He was strapped up with that, and he was choosing violence with his teachers. So.
Yes. It was great.
I wonder, we've heard a lot of examples, I think, of how your book in conversation has opened up nature to folks. Have you ever had a chance to kind of take it out in the field? Have you ever done a bird walk with the bird dictionary? Have you ever, have you seen people out, this young man is one example, but it's just out on bird walks where the humor of the book is used to kind of ingratiate people into the space? Or is it something you'd be interested in?
Really like that. No, I haven't done that. I don't do bird walks as much, but I do a lot of workshops. At bird festivals, I'll do those. So I'll do comics making workshops for kids and adults. And I've used my books as gateways for those. So those have been really,
that.
really fun because I feel like it's one of those things is people assume that they can't make comics. But what's amazing is the workshops can be like an hour and a half long. And by the end of it, everybody has made something funnier than I could make in a full day. Like
I love
made
that.
incredible comics. So that has been fun, is kind of to use that to like power people. But no, I think it would be fun to incorporate it into a bird walk. That would be really cool. Like, how many terms can you use?
Yeah, because I had a few copies of your book. I was able to give them to some folks in the Bird Club. But the copy I keep is a copy you signed for me. And I was just wondering, because I think we talk about this and like Dexter and I are sitting here cracking up laughing, but I think having it out in the field maybe sometimes to lighten the load for people that may be feeling intimidated at that moment and maybe just sit there and read out loud the definition of jizz and then just go about our birding day, you know?
Well, we don't have to pick jizz. No, I love that.
Oh,
yeah.
We are not serious at all, folks.
Nope.
This is so. Oh,
you knew what you were getting into.
I have not laughed this much in a long time. My soul is so happy right now. This is so good. When I'm thinking about humor, obviously, there's so much joy in this conversation already. But we often talk about access and belonging in nature and how nature spaces aren't always welcoming for everyone. And how have you seen humor open up doors, whether it's people that may be intimidated by science or folks who feel like outside or birding culture isn't for them? How have you seen humor change that for some folks?
I think 100% I've seen people consume my stuff and then say, oh, actually, I am a birder. Oh, actually, I am into this stuff. You know, there's someone here who I can identify with. You know, I'm not a scientist. I'm not even a trained artist. But if someone can look at what I do and say, oh, well, I can do this stuff. It's achievable. That feels really good. I think laughter can break the ice too, 100%. I feel like, I don't know, it's tough though, because I've also seen people use humor in ways that can be really cutting or really cruel.
Sure.
Like I've seen people use humor in ways that have, made me feel excluded or made other people feel excluded. I think it's important to remember that there are ways to make jokes without being a monster about it.
Sure.
Like that's also really important, because I've seen humor just fall so flat because it's being used to make fun of people. And so I try to show, and I think there's a lot of other people showing too, that there are ways to use humor to bring people in instead of push them out. But yeah, once you make a place fun and accessible and joyful. I've been to some feminist bird club walks where everybody's just having an amazing time. They're all just joking around. They're so happy. And the contrast between that and some of the bird walks I've been on where people are a little more, challenging and condescending it's night and day. So yeah, creating environments that allow for humor and joy is, as you know, it's like critically important. Because there are events, and I'm sure you've had this too, where I've just, there are things I've done where I've quietly just not gone back, and those groups don't know why that happened. Yeah.
It's usually because they're like, shh, or they're like, they're not open to people asking questions. We've had this conversation as well. Or they just assume you know what they know, and they're talking down to people that don't know something, or, oh, that's just this, or that's just one of those. So like, well, this is the first time I've seen this. Like, what's wrong with you people? Like, something,
Yeah. I think the one thing that gets me, I'm sorry, go ahead, Rosemary.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the one thing that gets me is like, it's very simple to correct somebody in the most empathetic and loving way when you're birding. But if your first way of correcting them is to yell across the other 20 people there and be like, hey, that's not what this is. This is this, like, which I've seen that done to children, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's not, that's just terrible, right? Like rather than we go slide up next to them. Hey, I think that might be this. What made you think it was that? Like, what were you looking at? Tell me about it. And just get them to be like, it's okay. But I think that's a lot of what your books do, is they teach people not to take themselves so seriously first. And then it teaches them, hey, I can still take the birds seriously while finding joy and humor in them. Like that's such an incredible line you connected there. Was that always the intent, you think, with that, is to connect it just like that? Or is there other things you want your readers and folks to feel when they engage with your comics and books?
I mean, I think that's it. I also have some ones that are just polemical, like, about climate change or whatever, where I have like a really direct message. Yeah, that feels like a lot of it. It is hard. I mean, you might have this too, is as communicators, people sometimes assume that means that we don't know very much.
Sure.
And so people who communicate science, whether they're scientists, whether they're not scientists, like there are studies suggesting that those people are taken less seriously because you're sort of seen as more fancy if you just kind of stay in your little world and you write your papers and you don't try to...
Nobody reads your papers.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like it's really important. So the graduate program I went to, we had this really fascinating thing that we did. It was a really hippie program in Vermont. And we had this fascinating class where every week we would have a question, and it would be something really strange, like, how does gravity work? Or like, are animals larger, closer to the poles versus closer to the tropics? They're just various things. But we were supposed to think about them without looking anything, which it turns out means you ask a lot of quote unquote stupid questions. And at first, when you're in an academic setting, that feels so wrong because you don't want to expose yourself to looking silly. But then eventually you realize, no, those are the best questions. That's where you get to the really meaty stuff. And so all of the people in my program wound up being the people, when we were in training as TAs or whatever, who would say, I don't get this. Explain that more. Like, how do I make this more accessible? I don't get this part. And I feel like all academics need to be able to say, hold on, I don't understand. It's not something that they say at all.
No.
It's so important. It's creating like a place where we can all, be more vulnerable while still maintaining a sense of that we're like intelligent people, I think is important to me too.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. Have you had any unexpected audiences where you came across a group of people and were like, wow, y'all read my book? Y'all read my comics? Like,
yeah, but like weird. Okay, so one time, you're going to laugh so hard at me right now. One time, this is more my comics, but I was out in the middle of a swamp in the middle of April looking for salamanders. They migrate at night to their vernal pools.
Oh, you just got Dexter's attention.
Yes. Okay. So I was at this incredible place. Yeah. This was a spot that has blue spotted salamanders. So it was like incredible. And so I'm out in this terrifying woods and I got my flashlight and I'm like out and, I had a couple friends with me and I come to this vernal pool and there's someone coming at me from the other direction who also has a flashlight. There was like a stranger in the woods. So I was like, hello. This guy is like, oh, hey, I'm so-and-so. And I was like, oh, hi, I'm Rosemary. And he went, are you Rosemary Mosco? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh my God, I love your comics. I love your work. And my friends were like, oh my goodness, like incredible. What are the odds that this guy knows your work? And then they thought about it for a second and they were like, well, the odds that a guy who's in a swamp at 2 a.m. in the dark looking for salamanders knows your work is actually pretty high because that's a small selected population. So that wasn't actually that much of a compliment.
Target audience.
So great. Yeah, I was super honored though, and then we found our salamanders. But,
I love that you were looking for salamanders too, right? Like that's dope. I just googled it and it looks incredible. It's a beautiful creature.
Oh, wow. I'm secretly not as much of a birder as I pretend to be. I'm like really a naturalist. Like I'm out butterflying and look at moths, all that stuff.
Listen, if you wrote a book on salamanders, a comics guide to salamanders,
I would love to help promote that for you.
Yeah, it would be that meme where it was like, shut up and take my money.
Yep.
They really are great. They're just, do you ever have a moment where you learn about an animal and it's like, it feels like falling in love? Like I took a herpetology class. Okay, yes. Wait, so I want to hear your animals. So in my case, it was literally, I was in a herpetology class in grad school and the professor, he was like old school slideshow, like puts up a slide and it's a blue spotted salamander. And it was like, oh, now I'm in love. Like I'm in love. Like that I have to see this animal. And then and that week I went out and I saw one and I was like, my life has changed. This is all I care about.
I had two on the same day, Rosemary. I held a baby goat and a salamander for the first time in the same day, and I've been smitten ever since. I can't stop thinking about Bertha, the baby goat, and she's probably huge now. But then I held a salamander same day. I would never be the same person. Like I tell people all the time, like similar to bird banding, and you hold a bird for the first time and release it, you'll never be the same. You see a owl in the forest and you have a stare down with an owl, you'll never be the same. You hold a baby goat, you'll never be the same. ever be the same. And then I held my own salamander. I flipped over a rock and I saw it sitting there and I was like freaking out. Ever since then, I'm like, now we're doing a herping and birding event in the spring and like everything is changing. My life will never be the same.
Man. Jason, do you have a moment like that?
I do. I was on, this is going to sound so pretentious. I was on safari with my wife in Africa and Tanzania, and we were introduced to the dik-dik, D-I-K. They are tiny little antelope, and they are so absurd. They are just, they're so little. They don't look real. They look like characters from Dr. Seuss. And the part that was wild to me was that they have these like little black glands below their eyes where they rub like this little pheromone on like little pieces of bush around. Like it was just a wild thing to me. It's a weird creature. It's got kind of like a proboscis nose kind of thing, and it's got horns. Like it doesn't look, it looks like it's from like some of Jim Henson's nightmares. Like it's wild. That was the one that I was like, I love everything about this creature. I want to be this creature. So yeah.
Man, but you didn't get to hold it though.
No, because I couldn't get out of the vehicle, right? Because lions and I can't run that fast.
Oh, this is crazy. I know it sounds repetitive, Jason, but I can't believe like it's been an hour almost already.
Yeah.
But Rosemary, we cannot let you go without a little lightning round action. We are going to ask you a few questions. Just let us know what's the first thing that pops in your head when we ask it, okay?
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. A birding term that always makes you laugh.
Oh, we already said jizz. I think that's the one.
Oh, man. All right. A species you never get tired of drawing.
Oh, I know it's a lightning round, but I'm struggling.
Got her. You got her, Dux.
Okay, lace and albatross. I've never seen one, but I love drawing them. Their little faces are so amazing.
Yeah, wisdom. The old one.
Yes.
The oldest. Love that.
Comics or books? Which one sparks an idea first?
Books, I think, for me. But then I make a comic out of it.
Love it. All right. Something in nature that changed the way you pay attention.
My friend studies beetles, and she took me to a swamp, and she just like reached into the muck and pulled out some muck, and there were beetles in it, like these special swamp beetles. And I was like, there are beetles down there? And it blew my mind. I can't look at mud the same way.
I love that.
All right. Favorite part of nature that you think more people should share?
Bogs. Bogs are amazing. I know more people are on the bog train now, but if there's a bog near you, they're full of carnivorous plants. They smell amazing. We have this view that they smell bad, but they're so cool. They're really weird. They want to eat you. Go to a bog.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look up my nearest bog.
Yeah, bogs are fantastic.
Rosemary, thank you so much for sharing your creativity, your humor, and your passion for connecting people to nature. This is one of the most favorite hour-plus conversations I've ever had with any other humans ever in the history of my life. So.
Yeah, my heart is so full. I can't thank you enough for taking some time to be with us today. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for all you do for birding and birds. It's so important, and yeah, you made my whole afternoon too. So appreciate it.
All right, I'm gonna sneak one more in, Jason.
Okay.
Before we wrap up, Rosemary, what is one feeling or idea you hope listeners take with them after this conversation? Whether it's about birding or nature as a whole, curiosity, or simply just noticing the world around them.
I think the most important thing that I would want people to learn is to, when they're out in nature, don't just look at the way things are, but ask yourself, how did they get here? What are the human forces? What are the natural forces? I know those two are often combined. What landscape changes, what climate changes led to this being like this is? And when you kind of look at what's around you and you go, okay, what caused this? That will just open up the most incredible histories and stories for you. Don't just take it at face value, but start asking why. Be that annoying person who's like, why is it like that?
Why are you so awesome, Rosemary? This was so
You
good.
just totally gobsmacked me.
This is so
Nice
good.
thing. That's so nice.
This is so good. Wow. Thank you so much. Seriously.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad we finally made this work. When I got the flu, I was like, no, I'm gonna get better because I can't move this. This is gonna happen. So you were my first non-husband conversation.
We're glad to get you back out into the world, associating with other human beings. But to everybody out there, thanks again for listening. Remember, birding is for everyone. Like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast or your socials. And we will see you all next time.